Welcome to another Steeler Thoughts Chief Feelings film review. In this video, we're going to be reviewing the Steelers' Week 5 game against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Unfortunately, the Steelers lost this game 20-17, but there are a lot of plays to look at and to break down from this game. Before we get started, we just wanted to remind you all that in addition to these film reviews, on YouTube, we also have our Steeler Thoughts Chief Feelings podcast that we try to record early every week. Unfortunately, this week's episode, we weren't able to record because of Hurricane Milton displacing Chris. But we will be back next week to recap Week 6. We are also on social media at STCF715 on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. That's at STCF715. We post clips from our film reviews, clips from the podcast, and we, on Twitter, kind of tweet during the game and right after the game, kind of breaking down both the Chiefs and Steelers games every week. So let's get into this review. Here we have got the Cowboys with the ball. This is the third drive of the game, and the score is 3-3 at this point. We are well into the first quarter, each team having had the ball and kicked a field goal. And the Cowboys are facing a 3rd and 1 at their 39-yard line. So let's get into what they're doing here on the play. We've got the Cowboys here in 11 personnel. Got one running back here and one tight end. And the Steelers look to be in a nickel formation. So as we've talked about with the Steelers, sometimes they'll have 2 down linemen with their edges, and sometimes in their big formations, they'll even get 3 linemen in between the edges. So right now they've just got 4 at the line of scrimmage, and they've got 5 defensive backs, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here on this third down, the Cowboys have a bunch set here with the tight end, and then they've got CeeDee Lamb isolated over here. And what they end up doing out of this set is they're going to get one deep route, and then they're going to get a drag route and an out route to the flat. And then CeeDee Lamb is going to come over on a drag, so they're going to end up with like a mesh concept here. Mesh is a really good concept to run, especially against man-to-man coverage, because you can use it as a pick play. But the Steelers are in a zone. They're actually playing a variation of cover 3, in which Elliott's going to be the middle safety. These two, Porter and Donte Jackson, are going to take the outside if anybody comes deep, and Minka is the robber in the middle. And then you've got the linebackers, Wilson and Queen, playing underneath. So at the snap, here we go with I think I actually ID'd people wrong. This guy's actually running the drag, and he is running the deep route. I think I switched them when I drew them out. But here you see Dak is going to kind of weakly play action to Elliott, who is responsible for the edge, which is J.J. Watt. So what it looks like here is that from this play design, what you think they're probably trying to do as their first read is they fake to Elliott here. They're intentionally not blocking Watt. Elliott's going to cut block him. So what they're probably trying to do is get his hands down and throw it out to the flat right here. That, I think, is the kind of initial goal of this play. So you fake to the running back, chop him down right there, cut him down, and then hopefully get the linebacker. But Beanie Bishop was ready. If you actually look before the play, Bishop actually walked down to get ready to cover the flat here. So you almost wonder if formation-wise the Steelers were prepared, because Bishop is right there ready for the flat route. And so this looks like their first read here. Fake the handoff. Elliott cuts Watt. Try to throw out to the flat, but that's not there. And then what it looks like here is the next thing that Dak's looking at is he's looking at CeeDee Lamb coming in as drag route. Remember, this is 3rd and 1, so here's the first down marker. He hits the back of his drop, and he looks like he's going to throw it. CeeDee is here. He's got a little room, but he ends up kind of eating that one. I wonder if part of it, I don't know if he thought the window was too small here. You can see that Benton's getting his hand up. He's prepared. Watt is starting to close. And then on the other side, Herbig kind of just takes Tyler Guyton for a ride down the inside. So he is getting pressure now. He's got Herbig coming here, Watt coming here. I wonder if Keanu Benton raising his arm kind of influenced this. The other thing is, if you look, Minka is like screaming down at this route. So he's kind of playing the underneath robber, and he identifies the drag to CD, and he's just flying down there. So I don't know. I guess a combination of all. It still looks like this throw could be made, but maybe kind of the up and down you need to go over Benton based on this timing would be too much of a problem. Whatever the reason may be, Dak ate this. Decided not to throw that. Well, now he's got Herbig coming in and Watt unblocked. So he manages to spin out from behind Guyton and get away from Herbig, and then he just tries to throw it away. The problem being that he's still in the pocket and there is no receiver over there. The guy who was running the drag stopped here. You wonder, honestly, if he had continued his drag and Dak had thrown it, they might not have called intentional grounding. But he throws it out to the left where nobody's around. This is a clear case of intentional grounding. So it essentially counts like a sack to the offense, right? It's the ball we placed at the spot of the foul and you lose the down. So intentional grounding essentially just means you got sacked. That's the practical implication of the penalty. So it's a big stop for the Steelers. We can see it again from this view, and I wonder, so again, look at Beanie Bishop walking over. Like, he's going right over to cover the flat on this side. And you can look at Dak. He's faking the pitch right here to Elliott, and Elliott's going to come and chip the edge. And you see he's looking over there immediately, the first thing. And he probably sees Bishop right over top of this route, doesn't like it, comes back, and now is looking for CD on the drag right here. And look, he was going to throw this. I don't know why, honestly. I mean, maybe this is too small of a window. He's got Minka coming hard down. Queen is here. Benton with the arm up. I'm not sure. I kind of wonder why. Maybe he got distracted by Herbig over here. But this looks like a makeable throw right there. And for a first down. But for whatever reason, he didn't want it. And spins out from Herbig and throws it away, but there's no receiver there. So, people get confused with this idea of like throwing it beyond the line of scrimmage. Throwing it beyond the line of scrimmage only matters if you're outside of the tackle box. So it will be intentional grounding every time if you are within where your tackle started. So Dak's tackle started here and here. So if you stay within that area, which he did, he dropped straight back. If you are not throwing where there's a receiver in the area of your throw, it doesn't matter how far you get the throw. Nothing matters. You can't throw it away from inside the tackle box while getting pressure. I should add, that's the extra part of it. If you're not being pressured, you can throw wherever you want. But if you're getting pressured, you have to throw it at a receiver if you're in the tackle box. Once you get, like if Dak had made it out here, outside of where Tyler Guyton had initially lined up, then you just have to throw it beyond the line of scrimmage. You can't throw it behind the line of scrimmage unless there's a receiver in the area. But if you're throwing it away, you have to get it past the line of scrimmage, otherwise that's grounding too. So anyway, in this situation, beyond the line of scrimmage doesn't matter because he is within the tackle box and there's no receiver in the area. So the Steelers get a big third down stop and they force Dallas to punt. All right. Now we are near the end of the first quarter. This play happens, I think there are 8 seconds to go in the first quarter. It's still a 3-3 ball game. And the Cowboys have third down at the Steelers' 11-yard line. Now, what Dallas tries to do in this situation, they are, again, in 11 personnel. They've got one running back, one tight end. And again, they've got like the bunch on the right side. And so what they try to do out of the bunch this time is they're going to have the point guy run a drag just like last time. Then behind him, the tight end is going to come in and run a dig route. And then Tolbert is going to come up and run a corner route. On this side, they're going to have CeeDee Lamb run a post. And they're going to have the back come out in the flat. And the Steelers actually end up essentially manning up with a little bit of a variation. So they're manning up with Minka up over top of the bunch. But they end up actually switching responsibilities. We'll get to that in a second. And they man up on this side, except they have the safety basically just bracketing CeeDee Lamb. So Donte Jackson is going to kind of get this side of him, and the safety is going to stay on top of him. So they essentially just double team CeeDee Lamb straight up. Now, what I was talking about the role switching here is that on this side, it looks pretty clear that Porter wants to go with the deep guy. And so Tolbert's running a corner pattern. Porter goes with him. And that requires Bishop to kind of switch. But what ends up happening then, Bishop would switch on to Ferguson. And you can see them kind of signaling here at the beginning. Like Porter doesn't want to get matched up, it seems like, on the outside guy. He wants to stay with the deep guy. So even though, basically they're getting the defenders to cross over each other, which sometimes what teams will do in this situation is you take that outside guy, you take the inside guy. Porter's like, no, I got him. So Bishop would have to go around him. And so what they do instead is Minka ends up taking the tight end and Bishop replaces Minka's role. So you can watch them switch responsibilities here. Porter runs with Tolbert, Minka runs with the tight end, and Bishop ends up just being like a safety rover in the back. But as you can see, the Steelers have kind of manned everybody up, the only exception being CeeDee Lamb, who they've got a double team on. And what it looks like is if we watch Dak looks like he wants CD. He's looking over here, and he doesn't come off of it. He's holding, waiting, and then it looks like he finally starts giving up on it because he's doubled the whole way. But Dak really looks like, I don't know what he was hoping for here. I mean, you've got the safety right over the top. You wonder if he had come off of this a little earlier. Now, if you look, like, as Dak's looking, everybody's pretty well covered, right? He looks good right now, but once he cuts in, Minka's going to run right with him. So everybody's pretty covered. I feel like the one throw you have to make here is throw this to the pylon and just give Tolbert a chance. He's still covered very well. This likely results in an incompletion, but it's at least like a fairly low risk option you have. Throw it right back to the pylon and see if he can go up and get one. Just put it way toward the sideline and back so that Porter doesn't have a chance at it, and just make it so that maybe your receiver can make a really tough catch. Besides that, there isn't really much of a throw here, but Dak just stays on CD and realizes he can't make this throw, and what that does is it gives TJ Watt more than enough time to come around the corner, and while he's doing that, Nick Herbig spins off. He actually has a pretty nice move in here if you look. Herbig really looks like quite a high effort guy, which will be such a nice thing to have. We have him in Kansas City with a George Karlaftis. You love those high effort pass rushers. So he spins in on Guyton and then comes back out and ends up getting a free run at Dak. And he and TJ Watt converge at Dak. Dak fumbles it, and Herbig is able to recover. A huge red zone turnover for the Steelers. But it all starts with the good coverage, right? A, they doubled CD, which was clearly where Dak wanted to go. And B, everybody's like really well manned up. Like there's not a great option. I still think Dak should throw this ball and should throw it back here and just give Tolbert a chance. But it's not like that's like an easy option. That probably results in an incompletion, but the incompletion would at least result in 3 points. And, the Cowboys line did a good enough job here, right? Like, the ball's got to be out of your hands at this point. Like, Dak is given enough time. Like, TJ Watt wins, but he wins slowly, and Herbig the same way. He had to do kind of his move in, move out. So this isn't really a situation where you can blame the offensive line. You can be happy with the defensive line for not giving up and continuing to motor through, but this is a coverage sack. Dak Dak didn't like what he had. He didn't see an option where he could throw the ball. He had more than enough time to survey his options, and he ended up having to eat it for the sack. I still, I wonder if Tolbert would have been able to go up and make that catch in the corner. But also, I should add, great play by Herbig to come up with the ball. But see, here you can see the pass rush, and you can see the time that it takes, Watt is working slowly around this corner, and then they finally get there. I mean, that's one of those situations where the ball has just got to come out. Like, you can't expect your line, especially against a defense as good as the Steelers with their defensive line. They're not going to hold up for that long. Like, got to get rid of that ball. But the Steelers did a great job. They get a big red zone turnover, and they kept it a 3-3 game to end the first quarter. Up with 11:01 to go in the second quarter. It's still a 3-3 game, and the Cowboys have second and about 8-ish at the Pittsburgh 40-yard line. Now the Cowboys again are in 11 personnel. They've been in 11 personnel for every play we've shown so far, and they still are using this kind of right side bunch situation. So again, they've got the tight end involved in a bunch. And they are going to run a similar, actually almost the same kind of route combination they did on the first one, except they're splitting who's going where. So if you remember, on the first play we showed you, I had erroneously said this person was going long, and this person actually ended up running a drag. Well, in this case, they've switched. The point guy is going long. The outside guy is running the drag, which is how I had drawn it up the first time, and I was wrong in that situation. So, but it's the same route combination, just different guys doing these two going long. He's got a drag, and then the tight end is coming out to the flat. That's how they're kind of running that bunch. On this side, they have their guy just going deep. And the Steelers are essentially running what looks like cover 2 man. So the safeties are coming back, and everybody else is manned up. And this is what you want in a man situation, is you want to have these kind of bunches with cross releases to try to help confuse the defense, and that's exactly what happens. So the one thing that's consistent here is you've got Bishop on Lamb, but there are generally two ways to play this as a defense if you've got two other guys in man coverage on a bunch. What often happens, like what the Chiefs do, it seems like they do a lot, and maybe all the time even, is that they'll say, okay, whoever breaks inside, I'm going to take you. Whoever breaks outside, I'm going to take him. That's one way of doing it. So regardless of how they're aligned, they kind of wait to see. So in this situation, for example, where he's going long and he's with him breaking in would become Patrick Queen's responsibility, and him breaking out would become Donte Jackson's responsibility. The other way that teams often do this is, I'm going to take this outside guy regardless of which way he goes. You take the inside guy regardless of which way he goes. So in that situation, Donte Jackson would run with Tolbert's in cut, and with Ferguson's out, Queen would run. And Queen and Jackson both interpret this differently. Queen thinks, I'm taking the inside guy, you take the outside guy. Jackson says, I'm running with him, you run with him. And so what ends up happening is both of them run with Tolbert, nobody runs with Ferguson, and he pops out wide open and has a huge gain here on 2nd and 8. So as you see, one of these two guys was supposed to come with Ferguson. My guess would be it's probably supposed to be Jackson. Because teams don't, the reason why they do this, right, that they say things like, I'll take the outside guy, you take the inside guy, is so that when they cross like this, you see these two crossing here, the defenders don't have to cross and risk like running into each other, or honestly just like taking too long to get out there and a guy coming open. So let them run and cross, and we won't cross, and we'll just switch who we take. That's what a lot of teams do. And that's what Patrick Queen thought was happening here. Okay, Tolbert's coming to the inside, I got him. But Jackson was like, Tolbert's my man, I'm going after him. And nobody comes out to Ferguson. So Ferguson ends up making a catch out here and getting a huge gain well into the red zone. Ends up being a total of 27 yards. And this will be like the easiest throw that Dak will have ever. he drops back and Ferguson's just running free. And no issue getting the first down for Dallas. So that mistaken coverage ended up costing the Steelers a lot and getting the Cowboys well into field goal range. Now we've jumped ahead a little bit. We've got 51 seconds to go in the second quarter. The Cowboys are up 6-3 and they are threatening to score more. They have a 2nd down and 4 around the Steelers' 15-yard line, looking to try to get into the end zone. The Steelers actually are still substituting. Montravius Adams is running in here late. But they are in a nickel package here. They've got their 2 linebackers and 5 defensive backs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The Cowboys are in 11 personnel, as they have been on every play we've broken down so far. And the Cowboys essentially run like a 4 verticals in the red zone. They've got CD going to the corner. Tolbert's going to the corner. And then there's like a kind of more of a seam route and a seam route over here. And the Steelers are essentially running a cover 3. Porter drops. Minka's the middle of the field guy. And Jackson drops. Elliott kind of plays Ferguson. He's kind of the inside, like, middle defender. When he sees that Ferguson is also coming up the seam, he kind of plays him. And on this play, Dak drops back. And as you can see, he's looking over here. He just wants CeeDee Lamb the whole time. And, with good reason, this is a one-on-one situation, right? You just have a middle of the field safety. And so CeeDee Lamb is one-on-one in the red zone. That's where he wants to go with this. Now, let's look at what Dak is looking at when he's about to throw this ball. So what Dak sees is defender over the top, CeeDee Lamb. He decides he wants to throw back shoulder. So he's going to try to put this throw near the front of the end zone with the hope that the defender's coming up, CD's coming up, and then he can just hit CD in the back shoulder. The kind of only thing that's potentially problematic in this situation is this defender is like playing off coverage and is, he hasn't completely committed. He's not like turning his hips and running because he didn't have to because he's in the end zone. He knows that CeeDee Lamb can't beat him from 40 yards deep, like there's only so much room to go. So he's kind of biding his time. And he's not like fully committed to turning his hips and going. And he's got eyes back on the quarterback. So when he sees the back shoulder throw come, he's ready. And he's able to get right in position. To make matters worse, CeeDee Lamb is not seeing this as a back shoulder throw situation. CeeDee Lamb wants a jump ball in the end zone. He wants a jump ball toward the back pylon. So if you watch the two of them, watch how differently the two of them react when Dak throws this ball. Donte Jackson is waiting for this throw. CeeDee Lamb is surprised by it. Look at how he has to stop his feet right here. He's not expecting this throw coming back shoulder at all. He thought Dak was going to throw it over here. And so Lamb is not prepared and not in any position to try to come back for this ball, whereas Jackson is, and he gets an easy interception. Another red zone turnover for the Cowboys. I've got to say, again, not being any kind of expert here, but from my vantage point, I've got to agree with CeeDee Lamb here. Basically because part of the reason a back shoulder throw works is because the corner is committed to going back, and that way you can kind of fool him if you're on the same page and get it behind him. But he ends up doing what we would expect to do to a corner. He does it to CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is showing what happens to a corner that gets wrong-footed by a back shoulder throw, right? You're running up and then suddenly you have to stop in your tracks and you can't recover. The corner is ready. He's coming back. He's watching Dak the whole way. Like, to me, this throw just wasn't there. Like, even if CD's ready for it, it's a tough contested catch. In this situation, I do think, throwing a jump ball and giving CD a chance makes a lot more sense. Trying to get back over the corner's head. No, this isn't a good vantage point because he's already throwing the ball. But look, he's still holding it. I mean, he's not again, he doesn't have that far to go, but it's not like he's turning and ready to go back. It almost looks like he's waiting to see if the back shoulder throw would come, and ultimately it did, and he intercepted it. It's interesting to see the corner being on the page with the quarterback a lot better than their defender. And here we can see the end zone view. Can't really get much of an idea of what Dak was seeing, but that's a nice interception from Jackson. And another red zone turnover. The Steelers defense was really doing work, as the offense at this point was really struggling to do much of anything. But they're able to keep it at 6-3 and give the offense a chance to maybe come down and kick a field goal and tie this up before half. All right, we're now into the third quarter. 11:50 to go in the third quarter, and the Steelers offense is finally kicked into gear. They have a second down. I think it's a 2nd and 11 at the 16-yard line. This is their first drive of the third quarter. They're still down 6-3 and looking to put some pressure. The defense has really done a great job. They allowed a couple drives. They got 2 red zone turnovers, kept the offense in this game, and here's the offense trying to take advantage. They come out here in 11 personnel. Actually, this is 12 personnel. They have the 1 running back, and then they've got Washington and Heyward as their 2 tight ends. And then 2 wide receivers over here, Austin, and I can't see who this is over here. All right, and so what the Steelers end up doing out of this formation is they run 2 clear-out routes, and then they run Heyward on an out route underneath. This is a great route, and then Washington runs this way. And Najee is going to end up coming out on the flat. This is a good combination to run against man, right? Or honestly, even against if teams are dropping like deep players, because you have 2 guys kind of clearing the defense out, pushing everyone back, and then you get a route in underneath. And it particularly works well because of the coverage that Dallas chose to play on this play, which is kind of it looks like a pattern match coverage where it basically is a cover 1 man. So what it seems like is these 2 are manned up right here. And then the inside guys, I think it ends up kind of depending on who runs what route. Because if you notice, these 3 underneath defenders are kind of hanging out underneath. We have 1 safety over the top, and you have a corner out here. And what it looks like they've kind of decided is that, 1 player over here is manned against Najee, right? And so then you have kind of 2 underneath guys. And it looks like if a route comes into the middle, one of the underneath guys will pick it up, and the person that was over the top of that person will drop back and be like the deep safety. I know that sounded a little complicated, so we'll kind of say it again. But what it seems like is, and the reason why I think they're doing this is because it's in the red zone, so you don't really need necessarily to have like a bunch of guys deep. They're already at the 15-yard line. But the principle seems to be that if you have an in-breaking route, then there are 2 defenders here waiting underneath to pick up. They're kind of your underneath zone guys. They can take on that route, and you can drop back. And so, but if you don't run an underneath route, then the person that's kind of lined up against you ends up taking you man. So if you watch these 2 guys, they're running those clear out routes, and they're just straight up manned up. And the reason why this becomes important is if you watch the safety and the corner on the other side. So watch this corner first. So this is where I get the kind of idea of their principle. He's like up on Washington. He sees Washington run an in-breaking route, and then look, he gets picked up by the underneath player, and then the corner drops back to be like the deep safety. And so you have these 2 guys running their clear out routes, and they're manned up. And it looks like this safety is watching Heyward for the same reason. Like if Heyward comes in and runs a drag, somebody here is going to pick him up, and he stays back. Well, unfortunately for him, after they clear out, Heyward runs an out route. So that means he's got to take him. He's the only guy out there. But these guys have run clear out routes, so he's got to navigate through all that traffic to try to get to Heyward's out route, and he's not able to get there at all in time to influence the pass, and Heyward gets a very easy touchdown. So it was a great combination of the perfect offensive play called for the perfect defensive play, that they kind of have 3-on-3 over here, the inside guy having to run through all the traffic to cover the underneath route, and he doesn't know which way Heyward's going to go. So my inclination is that if Heyward ran this way, he would have left him entirely and just come back. So he's almost watching Heyward's route to figure out what he's got to do, and then when Heyward breaks out, he's like, oh, crap. And it's at this point he realizes he's got to get over there. Look at what he has to run through. And so this is schemed up very nicely. Heyward's wide open. Touchdown. I mean, it's possible that Arthur Smith got lucky with this one, but you almost feel like he kind of knew what he was going up against and had a good play call for these situations after seeing what the rules of the Cowboys defense can be in the red zone. As it seems awfully coincidental that such a nice play was called against this defense. And seeing it from the end zone view, you can see Fields, this appears again very deliberate. Fields is looking right down the middle, looks like he's trying to hold the safety, and then turns and throws. Like it's not like Fields went through like 2 or 3 reads on this play. He's looking down the middle, waiting. This is a timing route. My guess would be that this was like the first read on the play, and he knew he was going to wait until the break, and if it was open at the break, he was just going to throw it. He's looking down the middle, throw, boom, there it is, touchdown. Suddenly, the Steelers take the lead. And now we have 8:44 to go in the third. The Steelers are up 10-6, and the Cowboys end up with a 4th and 9 at the 20-yard line and are trying to kick a field goal to make this a 10-9 ball game. Obviously, we don't show a lot of field goals on the film review, so you know something exciting is happening. And there are 2 people that I really want to shout out on this field goal. One, first being Montravius Adams, who just was a force on this play and just would not be denied. Ended up taking the snapper with him well into the backfield. If you watch Adams here, just burrowing in, and look what he does to the snapper here. He brings him completely back with him, and what that ends up doing is it decreases the resistance that the other interior guy, Loudermilk, has, because the center's out of the way. And so then the left guard in this play ends up having to deal with both of these 2 at the same time. So they're able to get a little bit more penetration than you normally would. We're not talking a ton, but look at where he is and look at where they are. They just get inside a little bit more because the center's out of the picture, and so there isn't as much force against them. And sometimes they say, this is a game of inches. They manage to get in a little bit, and Loudermilk gets his big mid on there and blocks the field goal. But I really think that the guy who got this started, the reason why it happened was Montravius Adams just burrowing in and displacing the center entirely, so that by the time Loudermilk's gonna jump, he has gotten a lot more of a push. And this poor guard, look at him like trying to move his body sideways, and Loudermilk's literally jumping up against his head, and he gets the block. But another huge play for the Steelers to keep the Cowboys. At this point, the Cowboys have had 2 red zone turnovers and a blocked field goal. So at minimum, they've lost 9 points. Maximum 17. Somewhere between 9 and 17 points with their turnovers and the blocked field goal. So again, the people to watch here, Montravius Adams, and then Loudermilk. Adams just burrows in. Look at him try to split the gap here. And look at what he does to 44. Just completely gets him off. And look at the window it kind of opens up for Loudermilk to come in. And look at this poor guard. Like, he's just trying to hang on for dear life. Like, gosh, that must hurt so bad. A giant man coming in right in. But just that little bit of extra penetration and sometimes you throw your hand up there and your hand just happens to be in the right spot. And Aubrey kicks it right into his hand. It's a blocked field goal for the Steelers and another big stop. If we watch it in real time, I'm just so impressed with Adams just burrowing in there. Almost like taking one for the team to make sure that somebody else would have an easier time. And they got the blocked field goal, still 10-6 Steelers. All right, well, this one ends up being a pretty crucial play. The Cowboys have a 3rd and 7 or 8 or so at the Steelers' 38-yard line. We are at, I think, nearing the end of the third quarter, and the Steelers are still up 10-6. Got a big 3rd down here to try to get the Cowboys off the field, and hopefully, even at this situation, it would be a pretty long field goal attempt. You'd be talking like a 55-yarder or so from here. Brandon Aubrey's a really good kicker, but we also know that Heinz Field's a tough place to kick field goals in. So hopefully in this situation, best case scenario, you give up no points still. And let's see how this ended up playing out. So what the Cowboys ended up running, so they're here in 11 personnel. They've got the 1 running back and the 1 tight end. And they end up running kind of deep outs from their outside guys, and they run a post up here. And the tight end ends up leaking out to the flat late. The Steelers end up running cover 1 man, so they've got 1 safety coming down, 1 safety back, and everybody is manned up here. So here you can see the route start. Got man-to-man coverage across the board. And Elliott ends up coming back, and Minka ends up buzzing down. Dak hits the back of his drop. He doesn't have anywhere to go. Doesn't like what he sees, so he tries to step up in the pocket because the right side of his pocket is starting to be collapsed here by mainly Watt and Heyward. And so as the pocket's being collapsed, he comes down and he is sacked on this play. However, unfortunately, if we watch on the post route over here, Beanie Bishop right here gets called for defensive holding. And you can see the penalty right there. Unfortunately, they are going to call that one, especially when it's happening at the break. So here, it's when the receiver's trying to change directions and you slow them down and hinder their movement, that one's going to be called every time, unfortunately. So Beanie gets called for the defensive holding right there. You can really see it right here. And that results in a 5-yard penalty and an automatic first down. So what initially seemed like it was going to be a big stop for the defense, up 10-6 nearing the end of the third quarter, becomes first down for Dallas. Now we can see this better, kind of what happened from the line perspective here. You're not going to get a great view of Bishop's hold from the end zone camera. You can see Bishop over here, and we can try to get any look that we can. You can see him coming on Turpin, and he's just going off the screen as he's starting to grab him. But yeah, unfortunately, that is going to be called. That is a hold. But on this side, you can see how like Watt and Heyward were able to slowly collapse the pocket from this side. And I want you to look at 70's feet. Because actually, Dak ends up tripping right there. He steps on Dak's foot as Dak's trying to get out, and this is what causes him to come down. So he stepped on Dak's foot, and Dak went down, and they collected the sack, but it was actually tripping over his own offensive lineman who stepped on his foot that led to the sack. But unfortunately, it's all negated by Beanie Bishop's hold. The Cowboys have new life on this drive, and they continue moving down 10-6 in the third quarter. We're now into the fourth quarter. The Cowboys are on the same drive that would have been stopped if not for Beanie Bishop committing defensive holding. They've now got 2nd and 10 on the Steelers' 22-yard line. They're still trailing 10-6. Now, the Cowboys have an interesting formation here. They are in 11 personnel, but their running back is over here. That's a Dowdle. And the tight end is over here. They've got a wide receiver in the backfield. And they run a bunch of crossers here. So what they end up running, they run like similar to like a drive concept here. They've got an in cut with like a deep in behind it. CD Lamb is coming the other way, so they got the mesh concept. Dowdle is kind of out and up. And Turpin's running a wheel route out of the backfield. The Steelers are in cover one man, where they've got Minka is the deep safety here. And everybody else is essentially manned up, but again, they use some match principles, especially in the middle, to kind of sort out these crossers. So it's not that just anybody's running with anybody. They do have some kind of, if guys come over the middle, they get picked up by linebackers, and it looks like CD Lamb gets kind of extra attention. But if you notice, so the way that they've kind of set up the man situation, Bishop is going to take this wheel route from Turpin. Joey Porter is running with Tolbert. Donte Jackson is running with CD Lamb. But the underneath guys are helping here. And Elliott is running with Dowdle. So ultimately, the underneath guy that picks up Ferguson is Queen. Peyton Wilson ends up coming with CD Lamb, although Jackson continues to trail. Their kind of drive concept, to me, it looks like they didn't get good enough spacing. Like, this looks like this route needs to be farther back. They're kind of really close to each other when they're coming across the middle here. But I wonder if part of that is that Tolbert is trying to kind of pick Donte Jackson. So he's running at his level to try to get in his way. Yeah, in fact, now that I'm watching this, I think that's exactly why the spacing looks bad. It's because Tolbert's trying to make it hard for Donte Jackson to come and follow CD Lamb. But ultimately, with all that creativity, which realistically was probably initially intended to get CD Lamb open on the drag route, like, you think these two guys are probably meant to try to like pick off any people that are trying to come and stop this. He's running a wheel that's clearing out. So ideally, you get an open area for CD Lamb to run into. I think that's the design of this play. Wilson does a good job of kind of running with him here. But ultimately, what ends up causing this play to be what it is up here, Deshaun Elliott falls down while trying to cover Dowdle. And Dak gets a wide open Dowdle. He still has to make a pretty good catch. I don't know why Dak didn't more just kind of float it up to him. He's still, look at the separation he has from Minka when he catches his ball. I guess he wanted to fire it in there a little bit, but no need to make him work that hard. But it worked. He made the catch. Touchdown Cowboys, and the Cowboys reclaim the lead in this game. Now, if we watch it from the end zone view here, see Dak, starts looking over here, and it looks like right here, I wonder what prompted him to run. Like, this pocket actually looks okay. Maybe he felt like he's got a couple routes going this way and nothing was coming open. And, there's a guy over CD, Peyton Wilson, but I'm not 100% sure what made him run. Pocket seems fine at this point, but he runs out, and it's right around the time that he runs out that Elliott ends up falling. You can see he's getting back up at this point, and he's just wide open touchdown. Unfortunate for the Steelers defense, but the Cowboys come down, and they end up taking a 13-10 lead early in the fourth quarter. Now we're down to 10:28 to go in the game. And Dallas got the ball back. So the Steelers, after the Dallas touchdown, ended up punting. And so Dallas now has the ball up 13-10. And they are, they've got a first down here, 1st and 10 at their own 27-yard line. So the Steelers defense is in a bit of a tough spot here. You know, they've done very well with timely turnovers and preventing points. We talked about how they prevented at least 9 points. I mean, if you include special teams, and maybe as many as 17 to this point. Now they're really going to need a big stop again. 10.5 minutes or so to go in the game. They're down 3, and Dallas has the ball with a first down. And Dallas here, again, is in 11 personnel, 1 running back, 1 tight end. And they end up running a route combination. So first of all, they come in and end up getting CeeDee Lamb in motion, right? So CeeDee Lamb at the snap is going to have a head of steam. And so what their route combination here is they're going to send CeeDee Lamb as he comes inside of Tolbert on a deep over. And the Steelers have one single high safety here. They have Minkah. So the point of this route is to occupy the safety, make him stay over the top of this, and then you have Tolbert running a post. And the idea is if you move Minkah here, then you open the post for Tolbert to catch a shot play here. They end up having tight end and receiver over here just leak out into the flats at the end. But essentially this is like a 2-man shot here against ultimately what looks like, you know, kind of a cover 3 shell. Yeah, so they've got a cover 3 shell, and as you notice, as CeeDee Lamb starts to get going, Donte Jackson drops back to kind of help out as he crosses over. And that's one of the reasons, you know, if this were pure like cover 1 man, Jackson would have been farther down. But that's one of the reasons why Minkah doesn't have to like commit, because he knows that as CeeDee's coming across, there's another guy that's going to be at least helping a little bit. But I think there are 2 things here that kind of make this play for the Steelers. And one is the range of Minkah Fitzpatrick, and the other is the play of Joey Porter Jr. So Minkah, if you watch him first, he's staying over the top of the over route, which is what, you know, you have to do and what Dallas wants, right? They really want him to commit to coming over here so this opens up for Tolbert. But Minkah does a really good job of staying on top of the route, but not completely committing. And as Dak throws this ball, he does a great job of turning and getting back over. And look how far he gets by the time the ball gets there. Like, he ends up being fairly involved. I mean, this is really good range that, you know, this is what the real talent of guys like Ed Reed and later Earl Thomas were, that they kind of let you play single high safety because they were able to cover so much field that you didn't really need split safeties. I know Steelers fans are going to bring up Troy Polamalu, and Polamalu to me was a little more of just a literally could do anything safety. I don't know that he was the rangiest guy. Like, he wasn't like Ed Reed or Earl Thomas, and that like you could just drop him back there and he would cover the entire field by himself. But he could kind of do everything. If you ask my preference, I'd rather have Polamalu because I think that kind of guy is way more valuable, that he could literally just do anything on the field in a pinch and do it at a very high level. But in this specific skill set, I think you look at more like Earl Thomas and Ed Reed as guys that could just cover the whole field. The fact that he can prevent you from throwing that route, because ultimately he's the only reason you're not, well, and Donte Jackson late dropping back, but this throw's already been made. So when Dak is looking at this, right, Jackson does start dropping, but the main reason you're not throwing this route is because Minkah's over the top of it. But then in addition to dissuading Dak from throwing this route, when Dak throws the other one, he immediately is able to wheel around here and at least be involved over in the actual play. That's great range. And then let's watch Joey Porter Jr., because ultimately he's the one that makes this happen. And it's not just that he tracks the ball really well, which he does. So Dak's about to release this ball, and if you look, like, which one of these guys looks like the receiver and which looks like the defender? Like, Porter Jr. does such a great job of tracking this ball in the air and making a play on it. Like, that is like wide receiver skills. He ran that ball down, followed the trajectory perfectly, and made the interception. But I think the true genius is kind of how he used his body here to prevent Tolbert from running. Like, he kind of ran the route from him and switched roles. And I think I appreciate this a lot because Chiefs defenders are able to do this with positioning and like keeping receivers out on the sideline. If you notice, like, he kind of cuts in front a little bit of the receiver and gets his body in the way such that Tolbert ultimately doesn't have a play on this ball. Like, look at how Tolbert is kind of having to like flail with one hand. He essentially got out physicaled at the catch point. Like, he's trying to reach out with one hand to get this ball. But he had as much of an ability to get to this. If Tolbert is stronger and faster than Porter, and he's able to push up hard, he could box Porter out, so Porter is not able to make a play on this ball. But it ends up going the other way, that Porter gets his body in a position where Tolbert kind of has to go through him to get to the ball and is not able to do it as the underneath guy. It's very hard to go through someone when you're trying to go through someone to get a ball that's away from you. You know, if you're running through that player, but you're not, I guess you're going away from the throw is what I'm trying to say. If you're a defender coming back to a throw and running through a receiver, because that receiver has to kind of like stop for it. But if you're running full speed away and the ball is traveling in the same direction that you are, then running through a guy in that situation is very difficult. And Tolbert tries to jump and get it with a hand and he can't. But Joey Porter Jr. did such a good job getting to the spot before Tolbert and then using his body to establish position and essentially just became the receiver on that play. That's a really good play from a defensive back. Also, shout out to Ferguson, because Ferguson comes and makes this tackle, and if he doesn't, this could have gotten spicy, you know. Porter was running around, and if he's able to get out of that and get past some of the skill position guys, he might have gone a long way. So Dak, if you see, he's looking down the middle, and he seems like he does take one and kind of look over at this over route, and then he looks back and sees the Tolbert. And look at how Joey Porter positions himself right where the ball is going to go. And Tolbert ends up being nowhere near where he needs to be to make this catch. It's like wide receiver skills. That's really cool to see from a defensive back. Steelers defense did it again. They again were in a tough spot. The Cowboys had the ball. They were leading, and the Steelers came up with a big turnover. And again, look at this. If Ferguson doesn't make this tackle here, you wonder, like, could he have gone? Like, it's definitely possible. In any case, Steelers get the ball back and give their offense a chance to go take the lead. Right, here we go. Under 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Steelers have the ball now with a 2nd and goal on the 6-yard line. Still down 13-10, but a chance to take the lead here. And the Steelers come out in 11 personnel. They've got Najee Harris as the running back and Pat Freiermuth as the tight end here. And they end up running a play that's really near and dear to my heart. It's a play that has been a staple in Kansas City. For me, the first time I remember the Chiefs running this was in 2017. People can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe they had pulled it out before then. But I remember it first being a play run with Alex Smith to Travis Kelce is the first iteration I remember. But then we started running it for Kareem Hunt too, and I remember running it for Albert Wilson before. But I think 2017 was when it started, and the first time I remember it being run was in week 2 of 2017. I was actually out at that game, Chiefs-Eagles, and Travis Kelce took the power shovel and then ended up hurdling, like basically diving from about the 5 or 6 yard line and like riding the top of a defender into the end zone. So this is the power shovel. And so how the Steelers are going to run this. So you're going to block as if you're blocking power. So they're going to leave the end here because it's kind of set up like it's a zone read or an option play. So they leave the end here unblocked and have him kind of occupied by Justin Fields kind of selling the option out here. So you can see Fields is coming out as if like maybe he's running an option here with Najee Harris. So the end is occupied. And the line blocks this up like power. So they've got 66 is McCormick, I believe, and Freiermuth pulling. Siumalu is going to come seal on the tackle. And the other tackle will be taken by the center on this play, by Frazier. And so then Moore is going to come and just try to help seal the end. So I think he ends up helping Frazier with his tackle. Just really kind of wall everything off. Again, you leave the end unblocked. Fields is going to occupy him with his motion. And so here you've got McCormick just looking for a linebacker to block on the second level, and Freiermuth pulled behind, and he actually is going to take a shovel pass from Fields and take it into the end zone. It's a really nice little play, basically kind of widening out the end with this zone read action, creating a gap between the end and the rest of the line, and you're just running the tight end there. Everybody's blocked this up and walled it off, and then you have the puller going and hitting a linebacker. So ideally there's just one man to beat, get through and get into the end zone. It's a play we've seen in Kansas City for years and years. If you've seen it in Kansas City before 2017, let me know when that happened. I'd love to go back and look at it, but this is what I recall is when that started. So again, Moore is not going to block him. He's going to leave him, and he's going to come around. Siumalu here, Frazier here. Here we've got the pull, and he's going to come in behind Moore and look for a linebacker to block. And then Freiermuth is going to come and take the shovel pass. And so Fields, when he takes this, kind of selling that option because you got to keep the end out wide, right? You have to keep him out wide to create a gap. So Fields kind of sells that motion and then flips it to Freiermuth as he gets past the end. You see, look at Moore doing such a good job of sealing this off. So the defensive line is essentially out of the picture, and you just have linebacker and safety here. And so McCormick just comes in, takes the linebacker, and he does enough to let Freiermuth in for the touchdown. It's a nice little play, and suddenly the Steelers are back on top. They take a 17-13 lead, less than 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Now we're at 1:26 to go in the game. Cowboys have the ball down 17-13. They've got a 3rd and 9 at the Steelers' 32-yard line. So at this point of the game, the Cowboys need a touchdown. Basically, 3rd and 9, if you get 2 stops here, 2 plays, this game's over and the Steelers have won. So really crucial play here. The Cowboys are running a similar bunch set in 11 personnel that we've been reviewing all night. We got 1 linebacker, 1 tight end. And again, they're similar concepts. So we got CD going long. Tolbert's coming on a drag route. And this time, Ferguson just comes and sits. On this side, they've just got kind of a clear out route over here. The Steelers run what looks like cover 1 man. And so he's going to be your deep guy, and Minka is going to come in. And honestly, like this, with everybody kind of manned up, this ended up just being a rough snap for Donte Jackson. So what happens is, he gets, and this is the point of the bunch, right? You kind of create a lot of traffic for defenders to navigate through. Dak hits the back of a drop. Donte Jackson's trying to squeeze through here and stay tight on Ferguson, but he's too far away to make a play on the ball. Unfortunately, he tries to anyway, and Ferguson makes the catch and is able to run for a 10-yard gain on 3rd and 9 and keep this drive going. And this is a rough snap for Jackson for 2 reasons. One is that at this point, like, you got to know you're not going to break this pass up, right? And so your priority at this point needs to be to just make the tackle. The lunge for the ball was just ill-advised in this situation. Like, right here, you just square up, and when he catches his ball, lay a hit on him. And, he's at about, look, here's a 32-yard line, so 32 to 33. The line to gain is at the 24. So, sorry, that's not the 32. This is the 28-yard line. So he's between the 27 and the 28, and he's got to get to the 24. So you're looking at between a 4th and 3 or 4th and 4 if you stop him in his tracks with a tackle. At least make them convert a 4th down to keep this game going. So the lunge is partially just like, you got to know you're not in a position to make a play on the ball. And the second thing that's frustrating about this is you've got help inside. You have no help outside. You cannot get beat outside. The fact that his lunge ends up taking him inside, like at any cost, you want to be outside of the receiver if you're not, breaking this pass up, so that if he decides to turn in, that's where your help is. But he goes inside and Ferguson can turn out and there's nobody there. So this just was not a great mental rep here. This was a real rough snap for Donte Jackson. And ultimately his decision there ends up costing the Steelers a chance to have a one play to end this game. The Cowboys get a first down and are able to keep this drive going. It was a really tough snap for Donte Jackson. We can see it here from the end zone view. When Dak drops back, look how far inside he is of Ferguson. And you can see Minkah coming down to help. Like, if Jackson's on the other side of him, they get him stopped, and at least it's a 4th and 2. It's 4th down at the very least. And then who knows what happens, You got one play to make it happen, but him getting stuck on the inside and getting beat to the outside allowed for a 10-yard gain on that little hitch route and a first down for Dallas. Now here we go. This is the ball game. The Cowboys end up with a 4th and goal at the 4-yard line of the Steelers with 20 seconds left. Essentially one play that decides the game. Cowboys score a touchdown, they win. Steelers get a stop, they win. And the Cowboys end up running a mesh concept. So they, what is this? I keep forgetting this guy's name. He kind of runs like a, back of the end zone route. That's Turpin. That's his name. So Turpin ends up going to the back of the end zone, running along the end line. CeeDee Lamb comes up and in, and Tolbert runs the underneath. So one thing to state, respect to CeeDee Lamb. He's clearly like the picker on this route, and the play is designed for Tolbert coming underneath. And if you watch it, here comes Tolbert. And so CeeDee Lamb's basic job is to make life difficult for any defenders that are trying to run with Tolbert. And this is, the Steelers are doing kind of a man-match concept, and here it becomes hard to follow Tolbert through the muck. And so what happens here is Beanie Bishop and Minkah are following CeeDee Lamb. They've kind of bracketed him. And Bishop has the right idea here. As Elliott's trying to run with Tolbert, Bishop peels off because you have an additional defender to come and help Lamb on the other side. So it was actually schemed up from the Steelers pretty well to handle this kind of situation. But if Bishop peels off this a little faster and with a little more intention, he'd actually be able to help out here. But the problem is he comes off so late that he's essentially irrelevant in this play. The right idea, but you kind of have to break out so that you can get out ahead of this instead of being caught in the muck. And Elliott, after having to run through and just around, this is where like a pick can be so effective even if you're not actually hitting the defender. You just have to make him take another couple steps. And he's not in a position to combat a good throw, and Tolbert is able to catch this for a touchdown, and the Cowboys end up winning the game. Honestly, it's a good play. It's run really well by CeeDee Lamb. A lot of respect to him because, not a lot of number one wide receivers, people who are contending for being the best receiver in the NFL, are happy picking for somebody else. But the only critique I could have on this play is that if Beanie Bishop, seeing the mesh, as he saw up here, I think that might be Joey Porter, he saw the mesh and he came back for CD. If Beanie Bishop had been able to do the same thing a little earlier and pick up this route, maybe it would have been too tight of a throw for Dak to make. But Elliott is just trying to chase and get back there. Dak makes a throw on the mesh and he scores a touchdown. For despondent Steelers fans, if you want one thing to entertain you during this play, is just watch the tight end's attempt to chip TJ Watt. He just gets, chipping TJ Watt's no joke, and he found out on that play. Not a fun situation for him. But I'm sure he got the last laugh, as he was probably thrilled with the victory for the Cowboys on a well-executed play by Dallas, and I just wonder what would have happened. We can watch the mesh concept underneath, but if we watch Beanie Bishop, if he stays on his screen, if he's able to stop now and get back over there, I wonder if he had been able to make that a challenging play. If he just was able to come off of it a little earlier, because it's just too much to ask for Elliott to navigate through all that. And he still almost got into a position where he could make a play on that ball. It's really, really good effort from Elliott there. But it was a good play. It was well executed by Dallas, and they ended up winning the football game because of it. And that is it for the Week 5 film reviews. Like I mentioned at the top, we weren't able to have a podcast this week because of Hurricane Milton disrupting Chris's plans, but we will try to be back next week with a recap of Week 6. As you all know, the Chiefs are not playing in Week 6, so we will only be recapping the Steelers game, and we'll only have a Steelers film review next week. I will try to look at something to do with the Chiefs film from this season and either post a video about it, or maybe we'll just talk about it on the podcast. We will see. But thanks for all of you that follow along. If you download the podcast, wherever you can download podcasts, it's a Steeler Thoughts Chief Feelings podcast. Or if you follow along on social media at STCF715, we're at TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. Our Twitter is especially active on game days for both the Chiefs and the Steelers. We try to post some content when we are able to. Thanks again to everybody, and until next time.